Hey, it's your friend Christiano, and welcome to the Queer Quest podcast. Hello, all you fabulous souls. Happy Monday, and welcome to this week's episode of Dear Christiano on the Queer Quest podcast. I am your host, Christiano Green, a queer transformation coach. And of course, in this series, we like to go deep into things that are going through my mind, because I believe if I start sharing and becoming more vulnerable, then I can go a level deeper on my own healing, my own growth, my own transformation, and take you along for that journey. So believing that you also could go deeper as well. Because I believe that those of you who are listening out there are wanting to go deeper on your own journey. And for those of us in the queer community, it can be difficult to take that level deeper. And actually, this week's specific topic on the Christiano is all about vulnerability. So I'll start off by sharing the written post that I wrote for my audience, which is now on my Facebook page. If you want to go read it in full again after I've read it out, go check it out, like it, comment it, do what you need to do. But I'll read it out and then we'll get into it. We'll break it all down. So, Dear Christiano, vulnerability is layered, messy, deeply personal. Some people, you look wide open, honest, direct, unafraid to share your feelings. They call you raw, transparent, even brave. But inside, you often feel the opposite. You know, there's always another layer, a deeper truth, a place you rarely let yourself go because getting there feels exhausting or dangerous. Sometimes you can't reach it. Sometimes you're too drained. Sometimes you fear if you go that deep, you'll completely fall apart. And you wonder, why does it look so easy for some people? Why do they seem to release it all while you feel stuck, holding back, locked tight? Part of the answer is this. You were never taught how. Your family didn't talk about emotions. Nobody asked how you felt. Decades of silence, layered with queerness, left you bottling more than you could count. So, of course, vulnerability feels like a fight. You've been trained to numb it, avoid it, bury it. But here's the truth you're learning. Vulnerability isn't a competition. It's not about getting there as quickly or as dramatically as someone else. It's about your journey, one layer at a time. Stop giving yourself a hard time for not being as vulnerable as others. Stop giving yourself a hard time for not being fully healed. Stop giving yourself a hard time, period. Instead, honor the process, honor your pace, honor the courage it takes to peel back just one layer more. Because every time you do, you reach deeper into your soul. You touch the rawest, truest parts of yourself, and that's enough. This isn't about anyone else's version of vulnerability. It's about you. And your journey is sacred. You've got this because we've got this together. With love, Christiano. So I hope you can understand the essence of really what I am trying to say. Because really what it is that everyone thinks I'm vulnerable. But deep down, I know I still hold back. Now, of course, being a coach, being somebody who's been on this journey for quite some time where it's healing and growth and it's messy and it's raw. And I talk about my experiences and my journeys and things that relate to me as a queer person. And I know they relate to so many others out there. Many people think that I am open and raw and honest. And the truth is, yes, I am all of those things. But when it comes down to other people's perceptions of me being vulnerable, and then my own inner experience, they don't always match. And so really in this episode today, I want us to talk about how vulnerability is a deeply personal, layered, non-linear journey. So what does vulnerability look like from the outside? As I said, people label me raw and honest and open. And these are lots of things that I hear from people out there. They think that I share a lot. I go deep into topics. I just talk about stuff that's deeply personal to me. And of course, that perception is that I am quote unquote good at vulnerability. Because yes, I can talk openly. Yes, I share my feelings. And yes, I totally hold space for others. But the inside experience is often very different to me. Yes, I'm sharing all this stuff, and it is definitely true. But there's a whole lot inside me that feels blocked at times. It feels totally drained and burnt out. And also, there's a fear of actually going too deep. And what would actually happen if I went that deep? Would I completely fall apart? So, I want to ask the question to everyone: why does vulnerability look so easy for some people while I feel stuck? And again, for others, they're going to think that vulnerability looks easy to me. And I look at other people and I see how easily they can release emotions, how they can cry, and how they can totally sink into what it is that they need to feel and get vulnerable and get deep. Whereas for me, it feels like a struggle. It feels like there's a block. It feels like I'm too trained to always go there. And sometimes what it feels like is that, yes, I'm sharing stuff and it's my reality, my truth, but sometimes there's like a disassociation or a disconnection from from what I'm saying, which is actually factual things, and actually the experience of feeling those emotions. I think for me, personally, when it comes down to it, when I've experienced something and I'm ready to talk about it, I feel like there's a level of healing or growth that's already been done. For me, of course, if I feel shamed about certain things, I had to go through the shame in order for me to feel vulnerable. It's very rare that people who experience shame are talking about their exact shame right now because they're ashamed of it. And the whole point of having shame in the emotion is that it bottles itself up and keeps it in. So in order for you to be able to be vulnerable, there's a level of healing and growth that has to happen. Now, of course, I can get details and I can share lots of different stories about my past and the experiences that have happened and how I felt in the moment. But again, when I'm telling those stories, it almost feels like I'm reading a story that's someone else's, even though it's definitely mine. All the facts are there, all the experience are there, all of what I felt in those moments are there. But I don't know if it's because I've done that level of healing that I no longer feel that part anymore. So for me, being vulnerable about stuff that's happened, like I said, I don't relive those moments. Where some people I know who will tell a story and they'll get really deep into the emotion every time and they get emotional and you can feel it like, wow, they've gone back there. For me, that doesn't happen. So for me, like I said, sharing about it, it doesn't feel difficult to do in those experiences because I guess I've either done the work on it to the point where it doesn't hold any negative emotion on it. Maybe I have done the healing there, but it's the level of just, like I said, feeling dissociated or disconnected from it, and that it's just another story. Maybe you can relate to this. Whereas, sometimes also we're so used to disassociating from experiences as queer people because of the way that we've grown up and had internalized experiences and had to kind of step away from it emotionally in order to protect ourselves. That maybe that's part of it. That is my default mode, is to disassociate from those experiences so that again I don't relive it. Like I said, that part of me isn't the part that I struggle with when it comes to going deeper. I find that there are some barriers to going deeper for me, especially when it comes to continual healing, continual growth, continual transformation. As if you've ever wondered, why am I still carrying pain that doesn't even feel like mine? You're not broken, you're brilliant. But brilliance gets buried under years of shame and silence and survival. And that's why I made this. I'm Christiano Green, a queer transformation coach and the founder of Queer Quest. I created a free queer healing guide to help LGBTQA plus souls begin the journey back to themselves. Inside, you'll discover the 3 core stages of queer healing, powerful journal prompts, and a roadmap to stop surviving and start thriving. This isn't some fluffy self-help PDF. It's the spark your soul has been waiting for. You deserve to heal, not just for your past, but for your future. Download the 3 guide now. And if no one ever told you this before, your healing is holy. And your queerness, it's your power. So grab your free guide now via the link in my bio or just comment below and I'll send it to you directly. As on my side of it, there's definitely something deeper that I'm struggling with. And I know that when it comes to the barriers to going deeper myself, it's, things like I'm feeling emotionally exhausted. And sometimes trying to go deeper can actually feel like too much. Like too much is actually happening. And again, I get to that point where like I disassociate or I check out. Whereas often, if I was to able to really understand how I can possibly sit there and really understand it, what would come up for me? What level of vulnerability do I be able to get to where I can go there? Because I do feel blocked. Now I know that there's a part of me that has a fear of falling apart if I go too far. That's definitely something that I know that I have to work on. It's something that I struggle with is that, I've seen people fall apart emotionally and mentally. And I've had to pick people up many, many times in what I do as a coach and a healer, right? And holding space with people is one of the greatest gifts for me because I get to see people at their most vulnerable and they trust in me, and I don't take that trust lightly. But for me, is it the fact that maybe I don't have a person specifically in my life that I can do that with? Or is it that that's just something that doesn't come naturally for me? And so I have a wall up. I'm protecting myself out of the fear of falling apart completely if I go too far deep. That's something that I've been pondering on. And I guess I don't know if that's relatable to some of you out there that you might also have that fear of falling apart if you do go too far down the rabbit hole of emotions and processing and vulnerability, right? Again, this is probably partly due to how my family conditioning plays a role. Now, I'm sure this is not a zero circumstance situation, but for me, I can't really remember having topics of discussing emotions with my family, my parents and all. I don't really remember us talking about emotions or difficult situations or how do we feel, or I feel angry, or I feel sad, or I feel upset, and actually talking through it. I got the sense from my experience and my memory that we were just a family who bottled things up. We didn't go there, especially not with my father, because that's definitely the lineage of his family, 100%. I can't say that with my mum. Maybe I'm blocking it out. But my memory for me is that we didn't talk about emotions at all, and I didn't feel that that was something that I understood how to be able to do until I got into my 20s and I started to really unravel and really start to slowly fall apart in the sense, getting vulnerable and really start to accepting myself as a gay man and really go through some of that healing, that deep stuff. Or even though I numbed myself and avoided it for well over a decade properly, but you can't avoid everything. It comes out and trickles over in those moments where you lose control. And me using alcohol and drugs and, that kind of world to numb it and to avoid situations, it trickles over, right? It trickles over. Pain comes out, especially when you're using substances that alter your mind and your experience. And of course, shit's going to come up in those experiences and it's not going to be good. And I remember time after time after time, me blacking out or me getting into arguments or fights or causing things as a way of me dealing with that, me actually trying to avoid it, dealing with it. That was my coping mechanisms. I used it for a long time. And I know from so many of the people I used to, peruse with, party with, they would do the same things. But I also know from dealing and helping so many people in this community, it is such a common thing as well. Like I said, 1 in 3 people in our community suffer from substance abuse. I was definitely one of those 1 in 3. And I know again from so many out there and reading so many stuff in messages and on Facebook posts and on Instagram and whatnot, that definitely I'm not the only one. I don't remember being asked how do you feel, other than the answer is how are you, and you go good mate, yeah good, things like that. No one ever really sitting down and asking me how do I feel and me being able to understand what does that mean? How do you feel? Like because I couldn't comprehend that when I was younger. because we didn't talk about it. We didn't have those experiences. I didn't have any friends as well. So like when I was going through school, I was left a loner. So I didn't have the wherewithal to understand that people talk about these things, that these are actual things that we do it, because I was so good at bottling things up, repressing things, suppressing things. And that was how my experience was. Now, of course, over the years, I had to learn how to do things that are more healthy for me. And I would say, definitely on the path of being a vulnerable person. But to me, it's an internalized experience, vulnerability. And to me, I feel like definitely I can go deeper, but I struggle to get them. Like I said, people call me raw, they call me open, they call me honest, they call me someone who shares and can articulate. I'm a great communicator. That's one of my skill sets. When I can articulate things and put it into a story and tell that there, right? But I know from me that there's like layers that I won't allow myself to get to. And again, being part of the queer community and the queer experience, being decades of hiding and bottling up things and shrinking myself to survive. Of course, this has been an ongoing thing. This is why numbing and avoidance has become my natural default at times. Of course, I'm working on it. As a coach, my first, person that I try to coach is myself. My first person who needs to step up and say, I need to work on that is me, because I believe that it's a continual process and I want to heal. Like the reason I got into this was probably partly because I wanted to heal myself and coach myself, and I was able to do that. But again, it's continuing to do that. And me being able to share with people that I'm not perfect, that I struggle with being vulnerable at times, but I still struggle with being able to go as deep as I want to, even though I help my clients to be able to do so in so many occasions. I'm putting my hands up and saying, this is something that I'm working on myself. And and the reason why I'm really talking about it today is because I want people to realize that it should be talked about more. You ever feel like the world wasn't built for you? Like you were born queer, and then you had to spend your whole life recovering from what that meant to everybody else? Yeah, me too. But I turned that pain into purpose. My name is Christiano Green. I'm a queer transformation coach and the founder of QueerQuest, the world's first personal development platform created exclusively for LGBTQA plus people. We don't just talk about healing or growth and self-love. We live it. We teach it. We queer the hell out of it. I built QueerQuest because I wanted every queer person to have access to the tools, to the teachers, and to the community that helped save my life. And I'm talking emotionally, spiritually, physically, all of it. This isn't just a platform. It's a revolution of self-return. A sacred space where your queerness is celebrated, your truth is seen, and your excellence is activated. So if you're ready to grow, to heal, and to rise as the queer badass that you were born to be, come join us. Your quest begins now. More. And it's also about how do we rethink the whole topic of vulnerability? Because vulnerability is a personal journey. It's not a performance. It's not me out there telling story after story after story of my experience and having people label me as open and raw and honest. Because fantastic, great, that's what you think of me, beautiful. But it doesn't matter. It's not a performance. It's actually how I see myself. It's my own personal journey. And if I don't feel vulnerable, even though you may label me as such, then I'm not feeling vulnerable. And I need to figure out how to go deeper for myself so that I can get there. And I know doing what I do and have to share a lot, putting stuff out there constantly, it's hard because like you're trying to continue to share your experience, but also you're trying to share it from a sense of this is what I learned from it. Instead of being in the messy moments and going, I'm not sure what I've learned yet, but I'm actually in that process. So that's what I'm really trying to do with this Dear Christiano series, is like, show me in the process instead of showing me at the finish line. Because the truth is that there is no finish line. There's just the journey. There's not the destination. There's the step after the step after the step. And sometimes you can't see where the next step is. And I want to be in that messy middle with you guys, talking to you about that so you understand I'm a human being just like everybody else, right? Because sometimes I feel like I have to be perfect. Again, that's stuff that I'm dealing with here. I I'm not a perfectionist anymore. I'm trying to be a recovering perfectionist, recovering people pleaser. I've worked really hard on stopping to please people. I don't care what people think, majority of the time. There's still moments, of course, because we're all human, and that's the part of the human experience, is to try to make other people happy, especially people that we love. But when it comes down to other people on the internet or over if you don't know me, doesn't bother me. I want to truly just own my life authentically and do that. And that's what I'm trying to do here as well. Now, of course, having pressure from other people to feel like I need to be something for them online, that's been a struggle of mine in the past. But the thing is, like I said, because I'm no longer working towards that, I'm trying to remove that block to my process of being vulnerable. Because again, your labels are your labels. And if you label me in a way, that's great. That's your label for me, but that's not my label for me. And vice versa. I can look at someone and like, oh, look at that person. They're XYZ. Again, if that person isn't feeling that for themselves, they shouldn't take on that label that I have as well. So it goes on either way. Now, vulnerability is also about understanding that some people think that it's all about going all the way in, right? It's okay. So vulnerability, there's the top level and there's the bottom level. And you have to go all the way here for you to fully feel vulnerable. And the thing is what I'm learning is that, yes, maybe it's a layer at a time. Maybe if I take off a layer and then I take off another layer a month later or however long later, that's still being vulnerable. It's not a all or nothing. And sometimes that's where I also fall short, is thinking that, okay, like if I'm not being, going to the depths of my soul, then I'm not being vulnerable. And that is something that, again, for being a perfectionist and somebody who really wants to, really, really wants to overcome some of those internal things that we all go through, again, I need to give myself grace, give myself some love, give myself some presence within myself to say, you know what, you're doing great. You've gotten this far. You're continuing to take it one step at a time. Take off one more layer and keep going. Of course, same thing when it comes to comparing it as well. Like I said, if I look at someone else and say, look, oh my God, like they're so easily vulnerable. They release all their emotions. They get to cry. And I compare myself to that person. That's killing my growth. That's killing my feeling. Because no two people are going to access vulnerability in the same way. And what they see, they may look at me and be like, oh, wow, like you can articulate it so well. Why do I get so emotional every time I go there? So like, like I said, both sides can be comparing each other, but that's not doing good to nobody. So yes, this may be how you access your vulnerability in these moments, but mine isn't necessarily like that. And it's okay to not be that way. It's okay to not be someone who taps into your emotions and cries with the drop of a hat, right? It is okay for that. You don't need that always in order for it. Sometimes you get a deeper lesson by being introspective and self-reflective and sitting with it. Because of course, if you get the emotion, sometimes then bypasses and you don't necessarily have all that experience. There's multiple sides to this as well. And that's why it's about really understanding that it is a practice of layered vulnerability, working one layer at a time, peeling off one layer at a time. It's about emotional safety over emotional intensity. And I think that's something that I think I have a gift of as well, because I am often emotionally safe instead of really, really, really going deeply into emotional intensity. And I see people go through the emotional intensity part, and then it blocks them from going deeper because they're like struggle with how intense the emotions are. So who knows, maybe this is the gift for me, and I have to look at it in that way instead of feeling like I'm comparing it to someone else. Now, you've survived closets, shame, rejection, silence, perfectionism, burnout, and heartbreak. But survival was never the end goal. It's time for your queer comeback. I'm Christiano Green, queer transformation coach and the creator of The Queer Comeback, a free webinar for LGBTQIA+ souls ready to heal, ready to rise, and ready to reclaim who the F they are. This isn't self-help, it's queer soul revival. Inside this masterclass, I'll share the 3 things every queer person needs to know to finally break free from society's judgments, awaken their queer spirit, and live unapologetically, spiritually, emotionally, and fully embodied. You weren't born to shrink. You were born to come back louder, softer, fiercer, wiser, queerer than ever. This is your invitation to come home to yourself. Join the Queer Comeback free, live, transformational, because your next chapter doesn't start with shame, it starts with you. Sign up now, link in bio. Now, along my own journey, I'm someone who likes to access tools to help me in being able to do so. And I'm someone who likes to journal on a daily basis. I journal every single day, often with a voice note in the morning or in the evening. I'll do a voice note into my phone and I'll discuss what's going on for the day or whatever it is that I'm specifically journaling about. And I love that. Sometimes I'll write it instead if I haven't got the access to a privacy for me to say it out loud in the way that I want to. That's fantastic. Of course, coaching and therapy. I've been through many coaches and therapists in the past, and maybe it's time that I find a new one that I can talk to for where I'm at right now. Maybe it's the time for me to say, hey, look, this is something I'm struggling with. I might get some help with that as well. Who knows? It could be the ready for me, and it maybe it's something for you. Getting therapy or coaching, it's so important, and I love helping my clients through all these things as well. Of course, there are deeper other body-based practices like breath work and somatic stuff, and all these beautiful healing places, which is why I love being in Bali because I can access so many of them. I've done so many different cool things over the years, which has definitely helped me in my own healing and getting me to where I am and helped me push where I need to be as well. And then the final thing that I really love is self-compassion. I've always been someone who's been very hard on myself, and I know so many of us out there really struggle with this here as well. So I need to release this need of being healed already, of getting to the end result. Again, it's a journey. I don't need to be healed. I'm constantly healing. That's life. We're never going to be fully healed because life is a journey, and it is about just unlearning things and relearning things and letting go and allowing in. It's a process. It's not a destination. So if I have that need that I need to be there already, then I need to release that and be more self-compassionate towards myself, give myself grace, show myself love, and just allow in the moments between the madness, just to sometimes just to settle in, and to feel is to heal as well, right? And so allowing myself to feel whatever it is that I'm feeling in that moment instead of avoiding it, numbing it, because I'm so used to that with my phone and all of the things. I'm just going to work on allowing myself to feel and then celebrate any small wins on the way, because that's really going to build the trust within myself, and will do the same for you. As long as you're celebrating and seeing how far you've come and taking a step back and self-reflecting, which is where the journaling comes in so much, because you get to step back and go, okay, look, I have come so far. And I want us to understand that vulnerability can be liberation, because when you stop giving yourself a hard time, the vulnerability does shift from shame, which is those things we were afraid to talk about, into liberation. So me being able to talk about these things instead of feeling ashamed that I'm no longer feeling vulnerable when people say that I am, it's liberating me. It's releasing me. And I can refrain it from, it's not about being as open as others. It's about really honoring my own pace and my own process. Because vulnerability is sacred. Reaching deeper into our souls, pulling out the rawest truths, one layer at a time. It's a gift. And when you're able to give that to yourself, the world changes, your universe changes, the outcomes change, and how you see things change. Because your journey is yours, mine is mine, and it's enough exactly as it is. So I really want to invite you all to reflect on this topic. And I want to understand right now for you, and feel free to share this with me or keep it personal to yourself, doing a journal, whatever it feels right to you. But where do you feel blocked in vulnerability in this moment? Where do you feel like you're not able to get to the level that you maybe had wanted to? And what is one layer right now that you could safely open today? This is going to take you to that next step. Again, not the destination, but the next step. Because you've got this, because we have got this together. I said that at the end of my script that I wrote and my little journal entry that I posted on Facebook. But it's true, you've got this. We've got this together because we are in this together. So I trust that this has been something that maybe, has been a good topic for you to understand about. And again, I would love for you to share if you feel open to do so, if you feel vulnerable to share with me. Privately is totally fine. Or if you want to share it with the world, comment below. Totally up to you. I'm going to be back, of course, later in the week with another episode of the Queer Quest podcast. And I'll be back next week with another episode of Dear Christiano as well. And who knows, maybe I'll just be going a layer or two deeper into whatever it is that needs to go through me at that moment. All right. Always remember, you've got this. I've got you. Bye for now.